Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today's Monday, so of course, we're going to be talking Week 9 reactions, all the things that happened yesterday. We're going to be breaking them down. We're going to be talking fantasy football takeaways. We're going to talk takeaways in general. We're going to cover the injuries, and apparently we're going to cover Dennis Allen as he's officially been fired by the Saints just under a couple minutes ago, literally right before I pressed the live button. So that'll be fun to break down. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right, welcome in, everyone. Good to see you, Ryan, Donald, Jamie, Grouch, Louie, our fearless producer, Dustin. Thank you all so much. And if you're listening on the podcast, thank you for tuning in. Again, guys, the podcast can be found via the link in the description if you just feel like using your ears instead of your eyes. Now, as mentioned at the top of the show, Dennis Allen just literally just got fired. So what does that mean? Probably good things. Probably good things, at least in terms of the team maybe getting excited and whatnot. But also in New Orleans, we have to be a little bit understanding in the fact that Chris Olave just got injured yesterday as well. There's not a lot going on. It was still probably going to just turn into the Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill show anyway. We'll find out who ends up becoming the interim head coach. It'll probably end up being the offensive coordinator, but we'll end up finding out. For the most part, though, I mean, we probably saw this coming. Dennis Allen just wasn't really a good head coach fit. He tried his best. They couldn't really get the things going in New Orleans, and they needed one. They really needed a coaching change. So I'm excited to see who they bring in, especially for next year, and how this kind of develops over the course of the season. But yeah, it'll be the Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara show, regardless of who the head coach is. So I don't think it means too much for our fantasy teams. It is probably good news for the Saints in terms of stepping forward. But for the most part, with the way the injuries were stacking up, I don't think that usage for anyone at this point was really going to change, unfortunately. Olave, yet another concussion. Third concussion in 5 weeks, by the way. Had to be stretched off. So hopefully things are okay with him. It sucks. It really sucks for Chris Olave. It sucks for the Saints. Head coaching change. Going to come not necessarily as a result of the Chris Olave injury, but just in general how this Saints team has been. For the rest of the year, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, they look like they're going to be league winners. And we'll find out who the new coach will be. But that's that. That's that with Dennis Allen. Sayonara, FTS. We'll move on to the injuries. And there's a lot of them. There were a lot of injuries this week that we need to go ahead and monitor. Of course, as it goes with Monday morning, we're not going to be able to know too much on the severity for these injuries, but we'll just kind of go through these. These are the players that you're going to have to monitor over the next couple days. Devontae Adams, he did already kind of clear the concussion protocol, so he's good. CJ Stroud picked up a leg injury. Not totally sure on the severity and what type of leg injury that is yet. CeeDee Lamb had to get a shoulder injury. I saw that there's going to be an MRI later today with that. Dak Prescott, a hamstring injury. Cooper Rush came in and played fine. So Dak Prescott, he even said in a post-game interview that he said it was like something he'd never felt before. So this seems like it'll end up being a severe hamstring injury, but that's just conjecture. We'll monitor it over the next couple days and see how this develops. But with the way things are going in Dallas, it seems that they're just kind of cursed this season. In Miami, Jalen Waddle had the classic Jalen Waddle special. He got injured and then returned to the game. Keon Coleman picked up a wrist injury that might also just be because he ruined Josh Allen and caused that drop that led to an interception. Maybe he just wanted to play coy there. But wrist injury for Keon Coleman, you never really want to see that, especially since that's literally the same exact injury that Amari Cooper sustained that had to sideline him this week. Does Josh Allen just throw the ball too fast? That's another wrist injury from a Bills receiver. Chris Olave, as mentioned at the top of the show, third concussion in 5 weeks, had to be stretchered off. Things seem pretty dire. I would assume they shut him down for the season. That's a lot of concussions, and the season is kind of lost already. I did see the Michael Thomas tweet. I'm not going to give any air to that, but if you're curious on some Michael Thomas stuff, he said some things. He used his voice on social media. So if you want to see some drama there, go to the Michael Thomas Twitter. But I don't know. I don't really want to talk about that one. Also in New Orleans, Juwan Johnson sustained a concussion, so it's Foster Moreau's season yet again. Xavier Legette, another wrist injury for a wide receiver. Things you just don't want to see, especially since he was playing really, really well. Eric All looks like he tore his ACL, not really leading to the Mike Gesicki season. It was always going to happen randomly anyway, but still the Eric All ACL injury, not what you want to see for a young player, but did kind of open the door slightly for Mike Gesicki to have a better second half. Few smaller ones, Harrison Bryant, Simi Fehoko, Darius Slayton in New York, so maybe some more Wandale, Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy, Theo Johnson targets going forward. Hunter Henry picked up a knee injury, but not sure what it is yet, so monitor that for sure. Hopefully he's okay. James Conner got banged up. He returned to the game, though, but just keep your eye on that. We did see the double vulture, as we'll talk about later in the show. Caleb Williams got hurt on the final play of the game, and it's reported as a lower body injury. Since it was the final play, we don't necessarily know the true severity and all that stuff. Probably more so fine, though. A.J. Brown knee injury. Monitor that today and tomorrow. Drake London hip injury, never really what you want to see, especially since Drake London was kind of killing it. Hopefully he's okay. Drake London was really killing it, but we saw Darnell Mooney kind of step up a little bit at least, which was nice. And then lastly, Wan'Dale Robinson got injured. We're not sure what it is. He's probably fine as well, just a little banged up. Now, a lot of injuries. Those all kind of suck again. We'll be monitoring those over the week. We'll, of course, figure out which ones we need to pick up as a result on tomorrow's waiver show. And then on probably Thursday's episode, maybe Friday, we'll kind of go back through, check the practice updates and all that stuff. But just keep your eye on those players rest of week. Cool. Now, before we get into the full reactions, let's go ahead and play a little bit of an ad break. And we'll start just with the beautiful things you can find at Player Profiler.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free, and one of our key missions is to make as much statistics and information and deep analysis available on playerprofiler.com for free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all this possible. If you can't do All In, that's okay. We have a draft kit. Or you can just subscribe to the player rankings. Those now include tight end premium FFPC ranks. Our brand new data analysis package will blow your hair back. And of course, there's our Dynasty Deluxe and our DFS Dominator. Take a moment, check out our premium services to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.
You got to go check out Player Profile if you haven't already. Of course, you probably have since you're here. But if you are just stumbling across us, Player Profiler is all the tools you need to succeed in your fantasy football season. And most of them are free. So definitely go check out playerprofiler.com for some incredible metrics, player profiles, all that fun stuff. As Jamie says, we are taking over the industry. And that's true. So we've got some reactions to the week, and we'll be brief for most of them. I mean, for a lot, when we get through midseason, a lot of them we kind of already know, but it's just nice to see these like truly develop, talk about what it may just kind of mean as a bigger picture and all that stuff. So we'll just kind of go team by team, one of my favorite takeaways and what I kind of saw in this week's game. So we'll start here in New England with Drake Maye. I mean, we kind of already knew it. He really is the real deal. I mean, he is just getting it done in all the facets. The game-tying touchdown is just incredible. Right as time expires to get that touchdown to go into overtime, just keeping the play alive, it just shows what he is. And we saw a really, really great stat on Player Profiler social media on Friday. We had a chart, a little data visualization from a DT Foldiore, and it basically just showed that Drake Maye is very good under pressure. He has been phenomenal under pressure, which is just kind of unique for rookie quarterbacks. So Drake Maye, really, that time that he sat behind Jacoby Brissett, as well as just, I don't know, who he is as a quarterback, is really fitting in New England. As we talked about a lot heading up to the season, what we liked about the fit in New England for Drake Maye was the fact that they needed a superhero type quarterback. Like they needed someone who could be like Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's Drake Maye's best comparable player on Player Profiler. So we're seeing it. I mean, we are seeing it. 8 carries for 95 yards, the cannon for an arm, the consistent 20-point performances. I mean, every single game that he has played this year, like as the starter, start to finish, because he got hurt against the Jets, he's had at least 200 yards and a touchdown. And this week he had 300 yards. I mean, like he is truly playing very, very well. So we're going to go ahead and just put the stamp on Drake Maye and say, you've got to start him every week if you have him. In single quarterback, definitely even. Superflex, definitely. Single quarterback, more than likely. More than likely. I mean, like, because if he's not getting it done in the air, like this week, right? 2 interceptions, only 1 passing touchdown. He had 95 rushing yards. And I mean, like they're like consistently in these scenarios where either it's garbage time or it's competitive against a bad team. And so it really is just it's a perfect concoction for fantasy football success. I think we're going to go ahead and put the wake and take stamp of must start rest of season for Drake Maye. Congratulations to everyone that, followed not just my advice, but Podfather's advice a lot as well. Invest in this Patriots offense, but specifically Drake Maye before he starts, because he's going to end up being fine. He's going to score some damn fantasy points. And he's gone now from at least, he was like QB 18, QB 19 at one point. I think last week he was QB 12. It's going to be hard to get much higher than that, but like QB 11, QB 10. I mean, like he's been doing better than Caleb Williams the past few weeks. So, hey, Drake Maye season is here. Congratulations to the New England Patriots. I'm going to every week starter, even in single quarterback. Yeah, really fun. Really, really fun stuff. And on the other side of the ball in Tennessee, really not too much to talk about. I mean, right, Mason Rudolph is fine. Calvin Ridley's kind of getting it done. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, it's kind of frustrating, but he's still getting it done. But Tony Pollard, man. Tony Pollard, he is healthy, and he's the Tony Pollard we remember him to be. And that was another player we were very, very high on heading into the season, because last year, he was pretty bad at the beginning of the season. That's because he was recovering from his fractured fibula. Then kind of like the second third of the season, like weeks 11, week 12 onward, he was catching some speed in Dallas. And then they pay him the contract in Tennessee. They bring him in. And, it was expected by a lot of people, myself included. I was expecting more of a 60-40 split with Tyjae Spears. But, I mean, he's a bell cow here. And yes, the past couple of weeks, Tyjae Spears has been hurt. But even before that, he was getting at least 60 to 70% of the opportunities with him healthy. And with him hurt, they're not really mixing anyone in, over the last 3 weeks. He has had over 80% of the opportunities and snaps for Tennessee. He's just crushing it. 28 carries for 128 yards this week. Was the RB 28 in terms of ADP on Underdog. Is only the RB 19 right now, but it's probably going to get even better towards the rest of the season. He's the only player really doing anything in Tennessee. So that was just incredible. Great stuff from Tony Pollard. And I think we could expect it to keep going, really, rest of season. The lifeline, really. Look at it. 73 yards leading receiver, but 128 rush yards. Julius Chestnut only down at 22 rush yards. It was the Tony Pollard show. And yeah, it's the Patriots, but still, that's just what we're seeing consistently from him. So what a great pick Tony Pollard was. He might even still be, like in Dynasty especially, he's probably still worth sending out some offers for, because he's not crazy expensive for the type of production that you can get. So yeah, and hey, this is a great point. Slightly off topic, but as we saw on Friday, right? Thursday, but as we talked about Friday, Tank Dell, he started to look a little bit better, and Tank Dell had the same injury that Tony Pollard had, right? So now we're starting to see second half of the season, you start to get a little bit healthier, and then you can build that momentum to go forward. So we've seen it from Tony Pollard now. Maybe we should start to see it from Tank Dell rest of season as well. Going to be harder to buy Tank Dell. But as we talk about, sometimes we see like a good performance come, and the owners of those players in fantasy think that that's like the top of the market and think it's time to sell, when really most of the time it's probably best to hold and maybe even just buy high. Like, it's not bad to do so. And I still think that Tony Pollard, he's probably in like RB 24, 25 right now in terms of dynasty value. And I think that that is worth kind of taking a swing at, especially if you're ready to gear up for that second half push. So Tony Pollard killing it in Tennessee. We love to see it. And then in Miami, right, we knew that the Dolphins would be better with Tua back. But I don't think anyone knew that Devon Achane is just the Dolphins offense. I mean, dude is just the Dolphins offense. I'm not sure what's going on with Tyreek Hill. I'm not going to try to answer that. This was a player that we talked about fading a lot this season at cost. It wasn't, a bet on Tyreek Hill as an athlete, but just at cost, there's a lot of things that could go wrong with him. And we're seeing it kind of develop, but not even in the way we expected. I mean, like, he's staying healthy. He's kind of getting the targets. Tua is back, and it's still just not happening for Tyreek Hill. But man, is it happening for Devon Achane. I've seen it go around Twitter, and I'm just going to lean into it as well. I think Devon Achane is probably the RB1 rest of season. Yeah, there's Saquon. Yeah, there's Derrick Henry. But, I mean, 200 yards in like the past 2 weeks for Devon Achane. He's got 3 touchdowns, 14 receptions, though, right? 8 receptions off of 8 targets this week with a receiving touchdown. He had 12 carries for 63 yards and a rushing touchdown. He's getting red zone usage. He's getting really all the important opportunities on this offense as both a runner and a pass catcher. It's incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. 8 targets in back-to-back weeks with 2 receiving touchdowns in both of those, averaging over 5 yards a carry in back-to-back weeks as well. I mean, he averaged 9.7 yards per carry last week. I mean, like, he is crushing it, Devon Achane is. Just absolutely crushing it. And all of the things that we were kind of reading about him getting into football shape, like now that he's truly an NFL player, no longer a track star in college, like he can truly do a football workout regimen and get his muscle mass up. It's truly translating. I mean, for the most part, the only thing that's kind of come his way is the concussion. I mean, we're going to knock on wood. We don't want anything else to happen. But, I mean, he's just explosive. He's tough. And he's crazy. He's just so good. He's just so explosive. It's incredible to watch. We're going to say RB1 rest of season. Even with Saquon and Derrick Henry as good as they are, the type of usage that Devon Achane has on this offense, it's honestly kind of unmatched. It's just awesome stuff. So, Devon Achane, congratulations to people that kind of held on to him and bought in the Skylar Thompson, Tyler Huntley era. Moving on to Buffalo. I mean, Ray Davis is just so good. How much longer until he gets actual opportunity on this offense? Seriously. Like, why is Ty Johnson even getting carries at this point? I know Ty Johnson looked good, but, like, Ray Davis is incredible. This should be Ray Davis and James Cook. Just boom, 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 boom. There's no reason that Ray Davis should only get 4 carries and 2 receptions at this point. Just no way. He needs a little bit more. I mean, I that's all I got to say, really. I mean, the 63-yard receiving touchdown, just chef's kiss. I don't know what you want. I don't know what else you want from a guy because he has looked in. I mean, that one game that we saw a few weeks ago, right, when he was the starter, when James Cook was out, it was just incredible. It's better than what we've seen from James Cook. And we've seen some great games from James Cook, but there's just something about Ray Davis, man. Shout out Tyler Football. That was like his big rookie flag plant who we had on the show last week. I mean, he was all in on Ray Davis, and he's just incredible. I mean, how much longer? How much longer until it is a 60-40 split in Buffalo with James Cook, Ray Davis? Because it's trending that way. It's what we've been expecting, right? That was why we were selling James Cook after the beginning of the season, because Buffalo has never utilized James Cook as a true bell cow. They've always had someone else work in. And they're doing it here with Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, but there's not enough volume to them quite yet. But it's going to trend there. It will happen, and it's going to be Ray Davis. It's just awesome. Still try to get him even with this because, I mean, once he gets even more volume, it's going to be pretty special. That's a really good backfield duo right there, and he's a really, really talented player. So he's just so good. That's all I wanted to say about Buffalo. Not sure really what else is going on in the receiving room, especially. It's such a mess. It's just such a mess, but Josh Allen's happy, and that's really all that matters. Now, the Ravens, they're just unstoppable. And I'm going to change my tune on Deontay Johnson. I know I was worried a lot, actually. I was like, man, this kind of cannibalizes everyone in the receiving room. It only cannibalizes Deontay Johnson. You can't take the ball away from Zay Flowers. You can't take the ball away from Mark Andrews. You can't really take the ball away from Isaiah Likely. Now, I mean, Diontae Johnson would get something, but I know he was on a snap count this week, but I don't think Diontae Johnson was brought in for anything more than to just take away some coverage and keep defenses honest so they could use the weapons they actually care about. Lamar, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. If you have Diontae Johnson, sell for almost anything. If you could still get a second, do it. I'm going crazy. I'm saying it. I'm saying get really whatever you can. We're going to sell even lower this week. I am no longer worried about Diontae Johnson cannibalizing anyone but himself, because this offense is just too unstoppable right now as is. There's no reason for them to change it for a guy that they barely gave any draft capital for. He's there because he's better than, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, and that's really it. Just Zay Flowers is too good. Mark Andrews is too good. Derrick Henry is too good. Lamar Jackson is too good. This Ravens team is too good. That's my only thought on this one. They are just unstoppable, and I want to see them in the Super Bowl, but we'll talk about that later. Mark, you need to stick around because I'm getting excited about your Eagles. And to the Browns, right? We expected great things from Jameis Winston, but we're on the experience, right? This is what we wanted, the Jameis Winston roller coaster. We are not. If you expected another 3 touchdowns, 0 interception from the game from Jameis Winston, shame on you. We all knew that he would throw 3 interceptions this week, right? Like, come on. It's Jameis Winston we're talking about here. But it's still incredible. 235 yards, still got the passing touchdown. And guys, Cedric Tillman is the real deal. He is the real deal. 32 targets, over 200 receiving yards, over 250 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns over the last 3 weeks. He is crushing it. Shades of Nico Collins as the podfather, and plenty of people have been saying all over social media the past week. Just love it. Really, shout out Harry Snowman, to be honest. I don't know if he's listening today. But last year, he was like so in on Cedric Tillman. Like, this was the rookie wide receiver to get at the end of your drafts. And that always stuck around with me. And I saw him sitting on the trade gods wire after Amari Cooper was traded. And I just scooped him up because I remembered that. And I was like, I'll bite. I'll see what this Cedric Tillman excitement's all about. And man, he's incredible. So, hey, good call, Harry Snowman. I'm going to give him full props because I don't know many other people that were I probably got a bunch of messages somewhere from him about how good Cedric Tillman is. So I just want to give him props because that was last year, But this is the deal. So Jamie's saying he only had 10 points until the last minute. 10 points is a lot. We are happy if someone has 10 points. And then you end up with more, 20. You end up with 20. It's incredible stuff. Garbage time points are still garbage time points. And Cedric Tillman, he's the real deal. So shout out everyone that picked him up. I would be curious, guys. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how much he costs because I have Cedric Tillman and I don't know what I would trade him for. I really don't. But I would say sometimes we see, with players that were picked up off the waiver wire that you're able to buy them for a decent price because they got them for free. So I would be curious. I would at least ask your Cedric Tillman manager, what they want. There's no way you would be. You're not happy with 10 points from Breece Hall, but you should damn sure be happy with 10 points from a player you got off the waiver wire and through your flex like a Cedric Tillman. 10 points is pretty huge. That's you get 10 points is the benchmark for a good fantasy performance in my eyes, and especially for a player you got for free. So Cedric Tillman, the real deal. And in case you were wondering, Jerome Ford did return, but Nick Chubb still got it all. 15 carries for Nick Chubb, 2 for Strong, 2 for Ford. I will say, though, of course, Nick Chubb still hasn't looked very explosive. So I don't know. We'll see how that develops. This was Ford's first week back, but still very encouraging to see Nick Chubb still get it all, right? So Nick Chubb, hopefully he gets more explosive, though. The Chargers. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I am a Justin Herbert fanboy. So to see back-to-back good games from him, 200 yards, 2 touchdowners, no interceptions. He might be alive. He might be. I mean, because what? He was playing through a high ankle sprain or whatever the hell he was playing through. Weird lower leg injury. There was some, or what was it? It was plantar fasciitis. That's what it was. But now, I mean, week 8, 28 points. Week 9, 23 points. Okay, this is a 6-point passing touchdown league that I got the points from. But still, 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns. And this is off low volume, right? 1 week he had the 49 rush yards. I mean, he might finally be alive. We'll see. I mean, the Browns' tough defense. Saints, a stingy-ish defense that he's done this against. Hopefully, this is the idea is, he might be, he might finally be coming alive, which is awesome news, which is just awesome news. And he's looking good. He's looking like the Justin Herbert we've always wanted. So I kind of just want to say, I think it's Justin Herbert confidence time. I do. I do. I kind of do. So, hey, exciting news for everyone that's kind of just been rostering Justin Herbert. I have been holding on to him in a couple leagues, and I've just not even been confident really to start him. But now I think you kind of can, at least against the right matchups and with everyone coming alive, right? Like Quentin Johnson, for example, Quentin Johnson is kind of the poster child for coaching matters. Right? Like we kind of talked about it, and I wish I was a little bit more confident in it. But this offseason, we talked about a few times, I could make the case for Quentin Johnson just because Brandon Staley's a bad head coach, right? And Kellen Moore is not a great offensive coordinator. So it kind of makes sense that Quentin Johnson, who was utilized very poorly last year, would take a step forward with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, who are competent coaches, who can put players in the right position. And now that Quentin Johnson's being utilized in his skill set, I mean, we're seeing really good games from him. So I like what we're seeing from Quentin Johnson. I think it's exciting stuff, but mostly I just think it's good news for Justin Herbert because, I mean, we're seeing Ladd McConkey, we're seeing Josh Palmer, we're seeing Quentin Johnston. DJ Chark will be back next week. It's Justin Herbert's season, which is exciting news. Moving on to the Saints. I mean, we'll just keep this quick because we talked about it at the beginning of the show, but listen, the head coaching change matters, but it doesn't at the end of the day. Because Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara, they're the offense now. That's not going to change. I could be the head coach and we'd be doing that. Bill Belichick could be the head coach and that's what would be happening. With the injuries stacking up the way they are, with the team being in the position the way that they are, it is Alvin Kamara season. It is Taysom Hill season. And no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no other, that is what it is. And I'm going to be honest here. Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill, for that matter, as good as they are in terms of the points they put, their fantasy value never truly matches it. I don't know why. You can get these players for a reasonable price. Yeah, you'll have to pay up. But I would recommend asking the owner what they think about trading away an Alvin Kamara, a Taysom Hill. Because generally you could get them for a little bit cheaper than their points suggest. I mean, Alvin Kamara is basically putting up Saquon numbers, but he doesn't have a Saquon price tag. You know what I'm saying? So I would do some shopping at least knock on the door, see what that might cost. But mostly I want to talk about the Panthers as Bryce Young really does look better. Again, better is the term. I'm not saying it looks good, but he really is starting to develop a little bit more, start to show a little bit of confidence and understanding of the game. This is when I think the clock has kind of been reset last week. We said it. He looked fine. We felt that the Andy Dalton kind of starting was kind of going to end in the way of Bryce Young getting to start again anyway. Unfortunately, it took a car crash. But I'm just happy to see him take a step forward because I'm going to be honest. When I saw Bryce Young crying on the sideline, was it week 2, week 3? I felt so bad for him. I mean, I really did. So I'm just happy to see him take a step forward, and I'm happy to see the Panthers win because F the Saints, FTS. And it's coming from all sorts of places, right? Chuba Hubbard. To see Chuba Hubbard have success with Bryce Young, it's great news, right? 2 rushing touchdowns for him. That's incredible. Jatavian Sanders, 87 receiving yards. Xavier Legette, a receiving touchdown. I mean, you can't ask for anything more than what we're getting right now from such a bad team with such a bad offensive line. These aren't players you really want to rely on fantasy this year. But if I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, I'm going to be honest. I am starting to feel a little bit better than I did a few weeks ago. In fact, I feel a lot better than I did a few weeks ago. And that's why we never gave up on Bryce Young. We kept talking about picking him up if he was dropped on our waiver wire show. It's going to take some time here, a lot longer than most developed prospects, but I really can't give up on him. I really do think he's a talented quarterback. Again, last year, Frank Reich is not a good head coach, and they have the worst owner in the league. So, it was a terrible, terrible start for him. He needs to build his confidence back. I think he's stepping in the right direction. We're not going to see it really much this season, but I do think next year we will start to see a better Bryce Young, and we can already see this young core on this team really start to gel. Leggett, Sanders, Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks comes back next week. Bryce Young, right? It's exciting stuff, and they're going to have a high draft pick, I think. I think they have a first to get next year, right? Or was that also to the Bears? Either way, they're trending in the right direction, and it's exciting in Carolina. Maybe not exciting, encouraging. That's a better word. On to the Raiders. I'm very sad because I love Gardner Minshew. I'm not going to lie. I love Gardner Minshew. I think, who doesn't love Gardner Minshew? Actually, I think that if you're a human being, you just love Gardner Minshew. But man, it is sad to see him this year. He just needs better pieces around him, which I'm not that, not trying to make excuses. That in fact, that's not an excuse. If you were truly good, you should be able to do it with less weapons. But you give him really good weapons. He is pretty damn good. But unfortunately, he is kind of officially below the Andy Dalton line. He's not quite a bridge quarterback like I kind of felt he could be. I like him, though. I do love him. And we'll probably get some more Minshew magic at some point in our lifetime. But for now, he has been benched, and it's looking like Desmond Ridder. 11-16 and a touchdown. Not too shabby. We'll see. We'll monitor it over the week, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders at this point in time just went with him, so I would go ahead and pick him up. He's going to be picked up anyway. A lot of people are going to be suggesting that, but still looking like Ridder maybe taking over in Vegas, which is fine. Brock Bowers got the touchdown, so that was cool, right? And Desmond Ridder is fine. He's not that fine. In fact, I don't know. If he was actually announced the starter, I would say that he would probably do worse because this, sometimes we just see, the defense isn't ready. At this point, the game was over too, right? So it's kind of a little bit easier. But still, he'll probably get a start, it looks like, because it seems that they're just kind of done with Minshew at this point. And he would be fine with Myers and Bowers. You just kind of feed the ball to them. Although I am mad in this game about the Zamir White touchdown. I don't know where that came from. So Zamir White, figure it out, man. Awful offense right now. But I was so excited for this Raiders team, but they are just not good. And on to the Bengals. 41 points. Joe Burrow threw for 5 touchdowns. Jamar Chase had 11 targets. Man, I bet Jamar Chase had a ceiling game this week. 100 yards, at least a touchdown. Jamar Chase had to have crushed it this week with Joe Burrow and the Bengals playing as well as they did. I can't wait to see Jamar Chase's stat. 43 yards and no touchdowns? What? Jamar, what is this? Mike Gesicki, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Chase Brown, 37 yards and a touchdown. Drew Sample, Andre Yoshevitz receiving touchdowns. Jamar Chase, just 43 receiving yards. Kind of frustrating, not going to lie, that Jamar Chase had this bad of a game with 11 targets and Joe Burrow had that good of a game. But, we are also very excited about the Mike Gesicki ceiling game. We love Mike Gesicki here. We love the Chase Brown as well, 120 rush yards for him. And the receiving touchdown. Chase Brown is legit. That's why they moved on from Joe Mixon. They knew they had something special in Chase Brown. Should be very fun rest of season. Very curious to see what happens with Zach Moss when he returns. We already saw that Chase Brown was taking over. Now with Zach Moss out, he looked incredible. I am curious to see if he gets like true bell cow usage when Zach Moss returns. And speaking of interesting usage, there is Washington. Chris Rodriguez had his first action of the season with no Brian Robinson. And I was expecting full Austin Eckler. Luckily, Austin Eckler still gets there with 42 rush yards, 41 receiving yards, and a touchdown. But Chris Rodriguez actually led the team in rushing yards, which is pretty interesting. Definitely something to note. This is a player who's probably widely available. It had seemed that the Commanders had given up on him, but it looks like he is, again, the backup in Washington. So if he's available in some of your deeper leagues, I don't mind picking him up. And if you're a Terry McLaurin manager, you are very thankful for touchdowns. 2 receptions, 19 yards, but both of those were touchdowns. Thank the Lord for that, or else it would have been a very, very disappointing game. Now, the Giants in this game, now, of course, I kind of like this, right? We love divisional games, so it makes sense that Daniel Jones would show up. But hey, Daniel Jones showed out. 20 of 26, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 54 rush yards, and a rushing touchdown. Was trucking people, killing it. So great game from Daniel Jones against that soft defense. It was good to see him kind of bounce back after some stinkers. It had seemed that he was kind of trending towards basically being benched, but he kind of saved his job for at least another week, which is exciting for Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Theo Johnson, who keep, honestly, finding fantasy success. You know, Theo Johnson was a very fun waiver wire pickup in FFPC leagues a few weeks ago. Tyrone Tracy still kind of looking like a little bit of a league winner. And Malik Neighbors still getting the volume, although not much ceiling. I'm curious how much longer people are so confident in Malik Neighbors being as good as he was for that couple-week stretch. Because as it's kind of seeming, I mean, he's getting a lot more defensive coverage, and he's not quite getting the points. So I am curious to see how the Malik Neighbors trends rest of season. But Theo Johnson, looking like a stud, honestly. When you love to see production from young athletic tight ends. That's just good stuff. Him, Jatavian Sanders, and we're starting to see Ben Sinnott kind of crack a little bit as well. And then the Cowboys total collapse, right? Dak Prescott hamstring injury, CeeDee Lamb shoulder injury, but that opened the door for Ryan Flournoy. Ryan Flournoy back on the menu. Ryan Flournoy, the Ryan Flournoy breakout. Ryan Flournoy. Ryan Flournoy. 1 reception for 13 yards off of 2 targets. We'll see. It'll, just when I thought I was out, he pulls me right back in, at least in terms of redraft perspective. We never gave up on Dynasty, but it really seemed it just wasn't happening this year. But if CeeDee Lamb is out for the year, and to another point, if Dak Prescott, if this hamstring injury is pretty severe, they might just pull the plug and really kind of go with their depth options and just see what happens. And then if we see like Trey Lance come in, we know Trey Lance and Ryan Flournoy had a really good connection during training camp. So it might actually happen this year. It's still on the menu. The Ryan Flournoy breakout. I also want to say go ahead and stash Trey Lance just in case. It's looking like it'll be Cooper Rush, but just in case, get some Trey Lance too. And then for the Falcons, they just keep things going, man. They are awesome. If the Buccaneers lose tonight, they will be really cruising towards winning the South. Kirk Cousins, as called on the weekly starts TikTok, I said start Kirk Cousins. He'll get 3 touchdowns, and that he did. We called him the must start of the week 2 at the quarterback position on Friday's episode. Great game from him. Great game from Bijan Robinson, who gets the CMC usage. But even with the CMC usage, we saw Tyler Algier still vulture a touchdown, which is pretty good news for Tyler Algier still, too. Still looking like an every week flex play, even with Bijan getting the usage he is. We'll need to monitor the Drake London injury. It's looking like Darnell Mooney is trending towards league winner status as he is just cruising and cruising. If Drake London misses any times, he's going to just keep it up. And hopefully, Ray McLeod becomes someone you can rely on in the flex. And maybe Kyle Pitts really does go on a second half tear. And then in Chicago, man, oh man, the Rome Odunze season breakout is here. What did we say in the bye week? By Rome Odunze, this is your last chance. When they come out of the bye week, he will become the main target. This is now back-to-back weeks where he's led the Bears in receiving yards. 5 receptions, 104 yards. Keenan Allen was next with 36. DJ Moore with 33. Again, this is back-to-back weeks where he has led the team in receiving, and both of those weeks have come out of the bye. As expected, Rome Odunze is developing into the man here, the alpha. They spent the draft capital they did for a reason. Yes, DJ Moore is awesome, but Rome Odunze is another level. He's a truly elite prospect. We love Rome Odunze. So excited. So excited about the breakout. Congratulations to everyone that was able to buy him. I'm not sure if you're able to now. You probably still can, but it definitely wasn't yesterday's price, and it's just going to keep going for here Rome Odunze is awesome. On the Cardinals, I still have no idea how they scored 29 points because it just looks like they played terribly. But James Conner just gets it done. And so do the rest of the running backs. Trey Benson and DeMercado score the touchdowns. Marvin Harrison Jr. needs to figure it out. Trey McBride also had a rushing touchdown. Trey McBride has no receiving touchdowns this season, but has a fumble recovery touchdown and a rushing touchdown. That's just hilarious. But man, oh man. The Cardinals looked terrible, but still put up 29 points against a tough Bears defense. That's just football for you, baby. Monitor James Conner, though, and still keep stashing Trey Benson. He looked pretty good. That was a nice little touchdown run from him. Pretty excited for what could happen rest of season. And speaking of a drunk run game, Jacksonville, the Cardinals rushing touchdowns came from James Conner at 100 rush yards, but Emari DeMercado, Trey Benson, and Trey McBride scored the rushing touchdowns. In Jacksonville, Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby both had 24 and 22 yards rushing, which somehow led. But Trevor Lawrence had 2 rushing touchdowns. Just what's going on? And this was the concern, right? We talked about benching Travis Etienne. We talked about honestly kind of trying to sell Tank Bigsby as good as he's looked because it's just going to be a disgusting backfield now, which just sucks because these are some talented players. And then, of course, rushing touchdowns come and they go to Trevor Lawrence. Like, what the hell is this? Just nasty. And I don't even know what to do. Like, you don't want Travis Etienne. You don't want Tank Bigsby. This offense, you really only want Trevor Lawrence and, like, Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram, of course. But the rushers, just not good. But the rushers in Philadelphia, good Lord. Saquon Barkley, 27, 159 and a touchdown. A backwards hurdle? Adding 40 receiving yards and receiving touchdown as well. I mean, this guy is just unstoppable. I want to see. This is for Mark. I know the Lions are having a great year, and we all want the Lions to be in the Super Bowl. But it would be such a shame. It would be such a shame to not get Lamar Jackson versus Jalen Hurts, Derrick Henry versus Saquon Barkley, right? Zay Flowers versus Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown versus Mark Andrews. Maybe we could throw that in. But, like, I want to see the Eagles versus Ravens in the Super Bowl so bad. I want that so bad. That would just be an incredible game. And I don't think anyone could convince me otherwise. If you want a different Super Bowl, you're wrong. It should be the Eagles and the Ravens. I want it so bad. We are putting it into the universe now. That's what we're hoping for. We need it to happen. We need the Commanders to start losing. And we need the Eagles to win the division. And they need to fire Nick Sirianni on the way to this. I want the Eagles to make the Super Bowl without Nick Sirianni, to Mark's point. But man, oh man, it would just be, I mean, come on. That would just be incredible. We need it. We need the Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley game. We need it. It's not the Falcons here. I want the Eagles Ravens. It's not the Falcons here. I already know the Falcons are losing in the wild card. It's going to happen. They're going to lose in the wild card, probably to the Eagles, right? But I want it. I want that so bad. The Eagles Ravens. That's just too fun of a game to not happen. In New Orleans too. That'd be a party, man. We need it to happen. We need it. NFL, if you're listening, rig it. The Lions. I really thought Sam Laporta was back. This just sucks. You can't trust Sam Laporta because guess what? Jameson Williams comes back this week. So Sam Laporta, the worst tight end pick, really kind of locked in. I really thought Sam Laporta was back, but just like Kyle Pitts, it seems that they just showed up and used all their energy on National Tight End Day. Really disappointing game from Sam Laporta, but great to see the headstand from Amon-Ra. Great to see the touchdown from Gibbs, and just great to see the Lions beat the Packers because we want the Lions to do well, as always. But, of course, we want the Eagles to make the Super Bowl. Sorry, Lions. But great game from Lions. Really, really disappointed in Sam Laporta, though. I mean, like, I am just absolutely crushed by the Sam Laporta season we're getting because that's just 3 targets, 2 receptions, 28 yards. I mean, come on. What are you doing? And to Green Bay, I mean, like as expected, right? We talked about sitting Tucker Kraft, but he did get 6 targets. So it's not as bad as it seems. Only 4 receptions for 34 yards. But the Packers, there's just not enough for Tucker Kraft to be valued where he's at. So hopefully you guys did sell him last week. And speaking of touchdowns, Josh Jacobs, man. If Josh Jacobs could just score touchdowns, we would be talking about him like we talk about Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, Saquon. I mean, like he is getting so much usage and opportunity, but he just can't find the end zone, and it's getting so frustrating right now with Josh Jacobs, I'm not going to lie, because he looks so good. Josh Jacobs looks so good as a Packer, but Emmanuel Wilson is getting the damn rushing touchdown. So Josh Jacobs needs to figure it out. I need some touchdowns from Josh Jacobs. I'm going to keep saying bye until that game happens because the ceiling is out there. The ceiling is out there for Josh Jacobs, so still try to swoop him up while you can because, I mean, like this is one of the true bell cows in the league on a great offense with RB1 potential. So try to get him while you can. And while we're here, another ceiling game that's coming. Yeah, Jaden Reed had the great bounce back, 100 yards. But Christian Watson actually led the team in targets. And that's important because what do we see every year? Christian Watson comes to life like week 10 onward. He just goes crazy in the second half of the season at some point. The Christian Watson ceiling games are going to happen again this year, and they're coming soon. We're officially instructing the Christian Watson buy. Christian Watson, you need to get him pretty damn bad. And then watching DeMarcus Robinson play as well as he is right now is very frustrating because these should be Jordan Whittington's points. They really, really should. Happy for DeMarcus Robinson, but man, I really feel like that should be Jordan Whittington right now, but unfortunately he's hurt. Still want to try to scoop up Jordan Whittington because he's going to get volume when he comes back. I know he will. So try to scoop him if he's been dropped in a lot of leagues. But DeMarcus Robinson is crushing it. It's going to be tough for him to get any true volume, but I still really want Whittington in Dynasty. But, I mean, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, these guys are going to end the year on a tear. If you're a contender, and Superflex, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, just go buy that stack. They are going to be special. Just go get those players rest of season. You could probably send a first. Just try to get those guys. Just try to go get Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford if you're looking for that push. They're going to be awesome rest of year. 14 targets, 11 receptions, 104 yards for him. Yeah, Puka Nacua got, ejected, but still. Cooper Kupp's going to get this usage all year, and so will Nacua. If Nakua's available, get him too, but it's really looking like Stafford and Cooper Kupp are in their swan song era, ready to end the year on a tear. And what did we say on the Seahawks side? We said start JSN. The breakout game is coming. We called the touchdown. We called the big game. No DK Metcalf. The Rams are giving up lots of points to wide receivers. Jackson Smith-Njigba, 13 targets, 7 receptions, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Just incredible. Geno Smith, 3 touchdowns and 363 yards. Tyler Lockett got the end zone as well. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, that's the story. That's the story. And it's just like, man, I hope you guys bought him because you definitely can't now. Now, I will say DK Metcalf comes back, but there's just so much passing volume in this offense. Everyone's going to be good. I would say, honestly, buy DK Metcalf. I bet DK Metcalf managers this morning are sad. And the injury status is still – I'll actually wait because I think he might miss one more week, DK. So maybe wait to see – try to buy DK Metcalf the second he's announced as out this week. That's what I would say. But still, keep DK Metcalf on the radar. I think he's a fun buy low because the Jackson Smith-Njigba breakout is just so exciting. He's being utilized all over the field, and the Seahawks will remember that. He's going to close the season on a tear, especially in PPR leagues. JSN, just crushing it. And that should do it because I don't want to talk about this Colts-Vikings game. That was horrendous. That was an awful football game. Yeah, Joe Flacco interception, Sam Darnold 2 interceptions. Joe Flacco lost fumble, Sam Darnold lost fumble. Just a horrible football game. The Colts, this is what I was talking about. Actually, we're going to use this. This is what I was talking about. This is why you don't bench Anthony Richardson. Because you weren't going to win with Joe Flacco. You weren't going to win with Joe Flacco. You have to, if you are a football team, you have to look yourself in the face, just like we do as fantasy managers, around this time. Am I competing or do I need to start retooling for next year? Do I need to develop my players, or should I pull the plug for my 40-year-old quarterback and just try to make the playoffs so we could lose? No, you should develop Anthony Richardson, because you were losing this game to the Vikings. You're going to lose in general. You're not a playoff team. And you have all this youth that needs to be developed, starting with the most important player. Yeah, you have to make an example because he pulled himself. But in the second half, like after Joe Flacco was playing as poorly as he was, why not pull the plug and go back to Anthony Richardson for the second half? Like, what are you doing, Indianapolis? This is what we're saying. Yeah, you can tell yourself it's about trying to win games. It is. But it's about winning games when you can win games. And there's just no point in trying to force yourself into Joe Flacco season. If you're the Colts, there was just no point. There was just no point. Horrible, horrible decision. And that's all I got to say. Because I don't get what they were doing. And now what do they do? Go back to Anthony Richardson, and he didn't even learn anything, right? Anthony Richardson isn't going to learn a damn thing because Joe Flacco sucked. He's going to be like, oh, see, I told you so. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a horrible, asinine, horrendous decision. And I don't even know. I don't know. I'm very curious to see if they pull the plug and go back to Anthony Richardson, or if they just keep rolling with Joe Flacco. You know, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what they see. But Anthony Richardson should not have been benched in this one. Or it should have been like maybe a half. You know, like it's just, especially with the way, it's just bad decision, bad process. And I mean, the Colts really have to look themselves in the face as an organization after that one, because there's not a lot of recovery there. Oh, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a magnificent Monday. I hope all your Monday night miracles come true. DeAndre Hopkins needs to kill it tonight, guys. I really need a lot of DeAndre Hopkins points. So we're hoping for that. We're asking for that to the fantasy football gods. So I hope your Monday night miracles come true as long as they depend on DeAndre Hopkins. And you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow for some more Wake and Take. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.